Oh, this ain't gonna work.
We're like trying to get down the sound system or balance.
The informal meeting for City Commission's called to order. Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Brown?
Here.
Dr. Estrop?
Here.
Mrs. Houston? Here. Mrs. Tackett? Here. Mr. Rue?
Here. Brian?
Yes, thank you, Commission. Tonight we have two work session items. We'll start with the first one, and that is an update on the Tremont Barrel Fill project and the cleanup work. And talking with us today will be representatives of the project, Jenny Polster and Bob Rule.
Thank you for having us tonight to give you this update. We do have a few other representatives from our team here in the audience and at the table. So we have Adrian Palomacu, he's our Community Involvement Coordinator. We have Scott Glum from Ohio EPA, and we have John Prieb, who is a GHG contractor for RESA 2 that doing the cleanup. Our brief update agenda for tonight is we're gonna just go through a brief history of the site since there's some folks in the room that might not be familiar with it, and we're gonna talk about the progress that we've made since the May 2024 meeting that we had here, and then next steps and future milestones. So just a reminder about the history of the site. The Tremont Barrel Fill is just west of Tremont City Village in German Township. It's an 8.5 acre landfill where disposal occurred between 1976 and 1979. There are 108 different types of wastes there. Some of them are hazardous and non-hazardous, and 300,000 gallons of non-containerized waste and over 51,000 drums that are buried at the site. The drums could contain liquids or solids or some mix of both of them. Here's some historical photos of what the disposal activities of the barrels look like. So coming up in the next few years is we're going to be cleaning up the site. We're in the process right now of the remedial design, which is coming up with the engineering design to actually go about the cleanup. The cleanup will entail excavating all of the 50,000 barrels, characterizing them, and then building a new RCRA Subtitle C landfill. That is the most robust type of landfill that the Environmental Protection Agency requires for the ultimate disposal of hazardous waste. And so the solid waste will be deposited back into that new waste cell, and all of the liquid waste will be sent off site for disposal. So in terms of the cleanup process right now, we're in the design phase. Again, just a reminder, this is a really complicated, complex design. We're talking about, again, the 108 different types of waste going to have to be characterized and staged and then ultimately built in this waste cell. So it does take time to make sure that we do all the steps necessary to keep it safe and protective of human health and environment. After the design is complete, we'll start construction. But right now we're in the phase. Just so you're aware, the cleanup is being implemented by a group called RESA 2. They're paying for 100% of the cleanup. No one in the room here is paying for it. And then it's being overseen by US EPA and Ohio EPA. Recently, in July, US EPA approved the Remedial Design Work Plan, which is a scoping document that talks about some of the general aspects of the cleanup. So again, this is a really high-level overview of what it will look like. It's not getting the specifics and design standards that's coming up next. So I'm going to turn it over to the company implementing the cleanup RISA 2, and Bob will talk about some aspect of the design.
So the remedial design work plan is basically the framework for the full-blown design. It goes into how we're going to design the removal of the drums themselves, the characterization of the drums, how we construct the cell on site, and then ultimately how we close that and monitor it long term. So we'll be looking at groundwater, both elevations and chemical concentrations to make sure that we have captured all of the waste on site. The liquids will be leaving the site. Only the solids will remain in the cell. And again, we're just now at the 30% design stage. So that remedial design work plan was the framework for what we are doing. Just recently, we went out and we were monitoring water levels in approximately 75 or 80 wells on site, just so we can get an understanding of groundwater flow. We want to make sure that whatever we do long term, we understand which way the water is flowing, so that we can make sure that nothing leaves the site, make sure that everything is protective from the remedy. Some things that are coming up this fall, probably maybe winter, November-ish timeframe. We're going to do a round of sampling out at the site, be doing chemical characterization of the groundwater wells. I think the last time the wells were sampled was in the 2014 timeframe. So we're going out to do some sampling just so we can confirm that nothing has changed and that we're still following the right track with regard to the design. Turn it back over to Jenny.
One of the deliverables that was required to be submitted with a remedial design work plan was an emergency response plan. Right now, we're keeping that plan in draft format. We anticipate it's going to be revised multiple times as they get further along in the remedial design. It's somewhat hard to plan for where you want to stage certain things without fully understanding what work to do. So this is just a first step. Keeping it in draft right now, and we're starting to engage with local emergency responders. Earlier today, we had a meeting with multiple local government response agencies. We had represented Springfield, Clark County, Tremont City Village, and German Township to talk about various resources that they have available in an emergency would happen. We tried to understand what each local group span of control was and scope of what they could respond to in terms of fire or something like that out there. And we also talked to them about resource and training needs that they have. And then any questions that they had, for us, we wanted to make sure that they're in the best to respond if needed. So this is going to be the first of many meetings that we intend to have with them. I found it from EPA to be really beneficial for us to hear. You guys have great resources here in Springfield, in the county, with German Township. So it's especially helpful. In terms of moving forward, once we get further along in the remedial design, we'll have subsequent meetings so that they can, adapt to whatever type of, response resources that they need to be able to respond in event of an emergency. We're also planning on doing a tabletop exercise once the remedial design is done, pilot some of the responses to make sure we're prepared, and then there will be ongoing during the cleanup. Sometimes it will be as frequent weekly, sometimes it may be every week, monthly, based on the work that's going on. But we intend to engage with forward. The next step of the process is RESA 2 will be submitting a 30% remedial design report to us. Two of the big things that are going to be included in that report is going to be the design criteria and then also the drawings and specifications for what the landfill will look like, some of the characterization specifications. So we're going to start to see a better, scope of what like moving forward. Two other deliverables that will be submitted with that, the site-wide monitoring plan. The site-wide monitoring plan is going to include the requirement for baseline monitoring of groundwater in the area. And then there will also be a transportation off-site disposal that will discuss how the liquid waste are going to be shipped off-site and what roads are they going to use. And where does this put us in terms of the overall cleanup? Right now, we're actually a little bit ahead of schedule from where we were in the meeting last time we were out here in May. So the 30% design is going to be due to us October. The one thing I want to say is you're probably not going to hear from us though for 6 months, 4 to 6 months after that's submitted, just because we're going to have ongoing dialogue with the engineering company for RESA 2 to go through the specifics. And typically it takes, 2 rounds of comments. We'll also be soliciting feedback from hydrogeologists and engineers from Ohio EPA who specialize in type work too. So there will be multiple groups reviewing this. And then once that's approved, we'll come back and share the design with you. So overall, it's looking like the engineering design plans will be complete in late 2025, early 2026. And again, I know it sounds like a long time, but it's a very complicated, complex cleanup. The magnitude of barrels and the type of waste, and what's entailed in chemical characterization, it's a lot of work and there's a lot of steps to it. So it is lengthy, but it's better to take the time, to do it so it's long-term productive. So, the schedule's pretty much where it's been and we're on track, and then cleanup would probably begin at some. Again, these estimates could change based on things that these are the estimates right now, and we're happy to give updates anytime we get to the major zone. And I think that's it for our brief update.
So this is moving forward as expected?
Yes.
And there's no delays in any of these in this process, right?
Not right now.
No intentional delay, no delay at all,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
This schedule is staying pretty similar to, we had the formation of a core stakeholder group back in, December of 2022. And we committed to giving a schedule. We're pretty close to that original.
Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, thank to all of you for keeping us informed about what's going on at the Tremont City Barrel Fill. For those who may not know, the Tremont City Barrel Fill, which Jenny said, contains 51,500 50-gallon drums of various toxic stuff, is within eyesight of the water source that provides water for this city, about half of Clark County, and a good share of Southwest Ohio. We don't want what's in that barrel fill to be in our water supply, because without good water, we as a community or a county or an area are probably out of business. So it was very important, and this cleanup effort has been going on for over 40 years. We've been trying to get this barrel fill cleaned up. And Jenny and her team have come through. The seal on the deal was that the cleanup effort now has been stamped by a federal court. It is now federally ordered. And if the defendants do not do their work, they're going to deal not only with US EPA, and Ohio EPA, but they're going to deal with the courts. And conversation with Bob over a couple of meetings now, I'm very confident that his company, with some help, is going to get the job done. Bob, can you tell us a little more about what's going to be involved? Are we going to have mountains of barrels stacked up out there, or how are you approaching this? Jenny pointed out it's a very complex, complicated thing because you got to, seems like, look at every barrel sort of individually.
We will be excavating barrel by barrel. We do not intend to have large stockpiles of any barrels or any waste materials that need to be landfilled or go to another facility. We'll be fingerprinting, so we'll be doing a quick analysis to make sure that flammables go with flammables and non-toxic go with non-toxics. Once we get a full truckload, we'll call for a load to take it off site. So the intent is not like the 1980s documentaries where you see just acres and acres and acres of bad stuff. We're going to have a contained area under roof for which we do the work out of the weather. So everything will be contained where we're working.
Thank you. Thanks again for communicating with us and keeping us informed. And the afternoon session with our first responders, I got nothing but compliments on. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Commission, we have a second work session item, and with us tonight, representing the Solid Waste District, is Chuck Bauer and Bonnie Martins. They will provide an update on the annual report. So we'll make a little transition here.
Okay.
Please.
Hello, my name is Bonnie Martins. I'm the program manager at the Solid Waste District with our director.
I'm Chuck Bauer. Thank you for having us in. Really.
Yes, we actually have the main presentation is our annual report, and then a quick explanation of our plan update and what we hope to get from you in regards to that plan update. So moving, am I the one that can I? Yes, I can. So, where's the, oh, got it. Okay. The Solid Waste District is a county agency. Some solid waste districts make up more than one county. Ours is just Clark County. And although we are a county agency, we are located in the city of Springfield on West Main Street. Our mission is to ensure that Clark County residents and businesses have access to comprehensive solid waste services. That is both actually having trash service, but also encouraging residents and giving them the options for recycling as well. Our staff is made up of 3 full-time at the Solid Waste District employees. Chuck splits his time between the Solid Waste District and the Utilities Department. And then we have several part-time employees that help with the specialty recycling, et cetera. We do have 2 departments, 2 other organizations that we contract with. One is the Health District, the Clark County Health District. They verify that scrap tires are being handled along with us appropriately, and if they are being stockpiled
at a business or such that mosquitoes are being taken care of. We also work with the Clark County Sheriff Department. For our office, officer or deputies Tillman and Bennett, they handle the calls that come in related to items that have been dumped illegally in public right-of-ways. Not so much private property, but alleyways alongside the roads, etc. A mattress falls off or full bags of trash hopefully fall off, but if they were dumped illegally, they go out, they investigate. These are the calls from 22 into 23. 22 is the first number. 2023, so complaint calls in 22 were 277. It went up in 2023 to 302. So as you go down that column, that's 22 numbers. And in all cases, 2023 saw higher numbers of investigations and then cleanups as well. Our two deputies oversee our Pride program, which is an inmate program where they provide responsibilities for inmates through duties to the environment. These are not aggressive. The inmates are not in for aggressive or violent offenses, and they go out and they help not only remove items, say, that get dumped along the road or in an alleyway. This just kind of gives you an idea of what they see when they go out on some of these calls. They also will not only clean up of course, in the alleyways and then alongside the roads within the city of Springfield, but they are countywide. So it doesn't matter which township you're in, they will get out and investigate it. They also do have a contract with ODOT to clean up the highways that just within Clark County's borders. So as far as our programs, of course, we're all about the reduce, reuse, recycle. And what that means, we do hope that people consider what they need to purchase, whether it's a wasp spray or some sort of paint. Try to buy what you need, not a lot extra, but every once in a while you end up with that extra can of paint. You bought a house, the people before didn't remove the paint, old chemicals, automotive fluids. We have a program each week, the lower photo on the slide, each week on Thursdays outside of the occasional Thursday holiday, and the first Saturday of each month, we are open 9 to noon, unless there's a holiday on that first Saturday, and then we are open that second Saturday. And as you can see, we deal with electronics and televisions. Most of the items that you see here, the paint, the furniture, those all are fee-based, depending on, sometimes it's per pound. The things like refrigerators and anything with Freon has a flat rate fee. We do accept small amounts of yard waste. That residents that just have a bag or two, they've deadheaded some flowers, they can pass through, show us that they have a small amount, and we have a couple bins that then we take to CNS Tree. The corner icon there is essentially saying that we also do pay now a contract fee to CNS Tree so that all the residents in Clark County, if you are just getting rid of yard waste from your yard, you're not being paid by a neighbor, you're not being paid by someone, you can take your yard waste to CNS Tree for free. We don't charge for it, but we can only accept small amounts with our staffing. One of our full-time employees is Sam Perrin. He is our education specialist. He has really worked to kind of get away from some of the group assembly type programs that we used to do. And he has gotten into the actual classrooms, and that is K through 12, although I think the majority of our programs are kind of K through 7th grade. And what he does is standard-based, so that the teachers see that his program per year, and it's built. So in kindergarten, of course, he's not doing the same kindergarten program as 6th grade. He builds on it so that if he's at a school, kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade, they all get different programs. Then they see him 3, 4, 5 years in a row, and he builds on it. to get the children involved in doing the recycling and hopefully the schools as well. The Solid Waste District does have some community programs that we do. We work with National Trails. We attend public events such as Jubilee. We have this year and in years past been part of National Night Out. We work with Wittenberg University and have interns, usually fall semester and then that spring semester. We don't have a lot going on to do summer programs with them, but we have interns that come from there. We work through our website and then also through our Facebook, which is our primary social media, and have reached in 2023 over 40,000 community members. Part of those programs that we have a Keep Clark County Beautiful board. Dr. Estrop sat on that board for a number of years with us, and in his place now is Commissioner Tackett. We do each spring the Great American Cleanup, where volunteers, whether it's scouts, church groups, individuals, just friend groups, pick up supplies from us, trash bags, gloves, and they clean up any public space, bike paths around their neighborhood, around their church, scouts where they meet, any public park, etc. And it's through the whole county. We also, as part of that downtown, as part of the Great American Cleanup, do a downtown cleanup where we sign up volunteers and they clean up, divided into groups, the kind of 35 to 40 core blocks of our Springfield downtown. And then the board here coming up in the fall has for the last several years done a planting day where we've assisted putting mums in the gateways. And then our Adopt a Spot, Adopt a Road program is something where a group agrees to do section cleanup of either a roadway or a public space like a bike path. Our Adopt a Spot is one of the bike paths, kind of east and west from what used to be the Shamrock Bowling Alley. We have 6 drop-off locations throughout the county, 2 in the city of Springfield, 1 at our office on West Main Street, 1 near the high school and the health department off of Home Road. And then, of course, there is Northridge, Mad River Township, Old Columbus Road, and Route 54 near South Vienna. And then in Green Township behind there, behind the Pitchen Fire Department. Rumpke services the general household recyclables. We do ask residents to put the recyclables, the correct recyclables. Signage is on the bins and on our website. In the bins loose, and then Rumpke picks them up depending on the frequency of that particular site, one or 2 times a week. And our facility manager, John, generally picks up the cardboard only bins, and then kind of going back to that Pride program, they bail it for us. General revenue, the blue recycling revenue on the bottom is the fees that we collect when we recycle the metal that people bring in. If they bring in their refrigerator, we get the Freon out, et cetera. Then we do recycle that metal. The cardboard that we get, we also recycle that. I didn't really highlight it, but we do get some styrofoam that we then densify, and we have a place that we take it and we get a small amount of money back for that densified styrofoam. That kind of shows just the general revenue that we get from that. And then the user fees is that specialty recycling. We charge, generally speaking, either at or just below what the company charges us to dispose of and or recycle the particular items. And then as far as number-wise, as you look back essentially over the last 10 years, end of year fund balance, we try to, kind of stay level. Like I said, as far as the specialty recycling fees go, we charge as little as possible. We are more of a service than trying to make money on that. So this is on our thank you slide. These are some of our board members from Keep Clark County Beautiful that helped plant the mums last year. Chuck Bauer's information is on there. The 32 trash, of course, use the numbers on your phone to dial in. If you do see any illegal dumping, you call that line and then we write it down and get our inmates out. And we'll take any questions if you have any. And then we'll kind of move on to our plan update.
Okay, any questions at this point, commissioners? Dr. Estrop?
Just like to thank Bonnie, you and Chuck. You do a great job. The last time I was out picking up litter, the good news was there was a little less than there was the year before. People are taking a little more pride in our community and picking up litter. The first year I went out, wow, I found a tire and a whole bunch of interesting things along the bike path over by, what's that bowling alley? Shamrock. What used to be the Shamrock Bowling Alley. All kinds of interesting things. The last time I was out, actually covered the same turf, and there was very little. So thank you, Springfield, for doing a great job. The other thing I want to make sure people understand is, for yard waste, as you mentioned, if you take it to CNS and you live anywhere in Clark County, can't be a business, but if you're a private resident and you've got yard waste, you can take it to CNS and it's on what street?
Dayton Road.
Dayton Road.
Avenue, yeah.
And you can dump it there for free. And what they do is recycle it in terms of bark and all kinds of stuff. So keep up the good work. It's paying off, and our thanks to you.
Okay.
Can I speak right in the mic, please?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, sir.
The only other thing that we wanted to mention is we are in the midst of taking around our draft solid waste district management plan, and Dr. Estrop on the solid waste policy committee and participated in developing the plan. So we hope that the city will take that up and hopefully vote to adopt that draft plan. And as that moves forward, we'll be able to go back to the policy committee, and they will be able to certify that the plan was properly adopted by the county and the residents of the county. Springfield's a very important part of that process. So take that up. Thank you.
Does the reservoir count within the illegal dumping? If we see illegal dumping at the reservoir, since it's state, how does that work?
Absolutely, you can report that.
If I could, ultimately, where does this plan document end up? In the hands of the US EPA or through the Ohio EPA?
It's Ohio EPA. So
Okay.
This is part of how Ohio EPA implements their state plan. They use local government to fill that role.
So Ohio has a plan that's then submitted to the US EPA.
It's their own plan, so it
Yeah.
doesn't go to USDA,
Okay.
but it's to fulfill our obligation. How we
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Okay, motion to adjourn the informal meeting.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes. We will have a hearing beginning at 6:55. Thank you. The public hearing scheduled for 6:55 has come to order. Clerk, call the roll.
Dr. Estrop?
Here.
Mrs. Houston? Here. Mrs. Tackett? Here. Mrs. Brown? Here. Mr. Rue?
Here. Has proper legal notice been given for this hearing?
Notice of a public hearing for the purpose of considering the proposed vacation of the first alley northeast of Johnny Lytle Avenue from Montgomery Avenue, also known as Rebert Pike, west to the intersecting north-south alley was published in the Springfield News-Sun, a newspaper of general circulation within the city. Attached hereto is a true and correct copy of the legal notices published on on August 2nd and August 9th, 2024.
I move that the communication be ordered received, recorded in the minutes, and filed.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mrs. Houston? Yes. Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes. Staff report?
Good evening, everyone. The applicant or owner at 1109 Montgomery Avenue wishes to vacate alley as shown on slide, highlighted in yellow to make use of alleyway. The adjoining lot to the south is not owned by the applicant. The alley that intersects the subject alley and is to the west of the subject property is overgrown and may be partially encroached by existing structures along the intersecting stretch of alleyway. The alley is part of a previous subdivision plat and was part of public road and alley network intended to support the residential subdivision. The property at 1109 Montgomery Avenue was developed in 1964 as a house. The surrounding north-south and east-west alleyways were vacated in 1960s. Written reports from utility companies state no objections and recommend approval. AT&T commented that it will be responsibility of owners to locate any facilities easements prior to development and request vacation of any facilities found. The city cannot advise the applicant with legal matters pertaining to private property or request that an easement access be agreed upon with surrounding property owners. The 16.5 feet wide alleyway will be divided equally upon vacation and deeded to adjoining property owners. The overall staff recommendation is approval of applicant's request to vacate the alleyway. The City Planning Board has also recommended approval of applicant's request. Thank you.
For comments from the commission? Dr. Estrop?
Have there been any complaints or concerns raised from the beginning of this request until now?
None so far.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the audience concerning this hearing only? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn this hearing?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Houston? Yes. Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes. Okay. The formal meeting of City Commission's called to order. Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Tackett? Here. Mrs. Houston? Here. Mrs. Brown?
Here.
Dr. Estrop?
Here.
Mr. Rue?
Here. Please stand for the invocation. I'm going to ask Aaron Roy to take one of the podiums, and followed by the pledge.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you for this time. We thank you for our city. We're grateful for all the beauty and the challenges that come with it. And Lord, we're just thankful for the potential that is in our city and that we're seeing. And I pray, Lord, you just give our city officials and government leaders wisdom and discernment, patience, compassion. And I pray for us as citizens that we would be also wise and discerning and patient and compassionate good listeners. Thank you for this space to allow us to hear each other out. And I just pray that peace would reign in our city in your name. Amen.
Is there approval of minutes from last meeting?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Clerk, call the roll.
Sorry. Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes. The City Commission's committed to creating a meeting environment that allows for civil and constructive dialogue as we work together on the challenges for our community. Tonight, we will continue to have public comment period at the beginning of our formal meeting. Those wishing to speak must provide a comment card to the city clerk. No new cards will be accepted after 15 minutes following roll call of the meeting. That'll be 7:15 tonight. After the public comment period, we will hold the City Commission comment period to provide an opportunity for commissioners to respond to the public comment period. We will also ask the city manager and to have the staff answer any questions posed during the public comment period that do not require additional research. Questions requiring additional research by staff will be followed up over the next couple of days, and the person asking the question will be contacted, provided they have given us their entire contact information, which is primarily your address, your phone number, and your email. All questions not answered during the meeting will be posted on the city's website prior to the next commission meeting. Again, we want to create a conducive environment for constructive dialogue, and we will continually learn to evolve and create this environment. We are also asking for your help. As you know, we will continue to ask for support from our state and federal officials. We ask that you please contact them as they represent all of us. We have provided hard copies of a draft letter. We have copies up here, and copies are available out there. This draft letter and mailing addresses of your state and federal officials. Use our template or develop your own letter to let your voices be heard as well at the state and federal level. The draft letter template and contact information is also available on our website. Also remember, the next immigration forum facilitated by Denise Williams will take place on August 29th at 6 p.m. to 7:30 here in the City Hall Forum. If you plan to address the commission tonight during public comment period, please, on immigration issues, we do encourage you to participate in the 29th meeting for discussion and important comments. Again, we're also asking just to maintain an emotional level of balance and constructive opportunity to share dialogue, that there be no applause from the room, and if you do disrupt the meeting from your seat, you'll be politely and respectfully asked to leave. Lastly, we just appreciate you being here, and I will say that the comments, those that have added information, gave it at the last meeting, did receive a follow-up after the meeting in answers to their questions. We'll go ahead and begin with public comment tonight. You have 3 minutes, and we'll begin with Gary Armstrong.
I like it when I get to hear other people's, they give me ideas that I didn't think of. But a few words that I was thinking about today, and all of them come down to criminality, vile, despicable. But that's what I didn't say last week when I was outside and got in to speak. Those are words for throwing the homeless out. I think you should be removed just for that immediately. I don't know how you could do it. I don't know why anybody would do it. But something I've learned that I want you guys to know. People ask me why I got a recall for 3. That's 2/5 have compassion and heart that sit up there. They don't get much say. They vote on whether we buy apples or oranges and the daily stuff. But the real agenda is buying hotels that aren't worth it, coming up with ideas that are worthless, and the situation with the homeless versus Homeful and Sheltered Inc. waste of money, but there's ties. There's ties between two people. Two guys in here have LLCs, which was my main thing that brought me here. LLCs violating my property on 110 or 109 East Ward. It was 110 that was violated. By the way, if anybody knows anybody who's lived there in the last 2 years, I got a reward for them to give me the information because the city won't do anything about it after 2 years of a guy building 4-unit out of a single family.
Gary, would you please address me?
Because he was
Gary,
a former commissioner.
Gary.
No, really what I've learned, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
is you haven't done anything about him because he's tied to the plot, the scheme, the agenda that brought the immigration here. Because somebody wanted to run for mayor alone, and he had somebody who worked in DeWine's office that's here, and there's a conversation that I can see. It's almost like a Sopranos except maybe in a New Jersey little basement. And they're working against us as citizens because this thing is killing this city while several of you are making money out of these LLCs and renting to the Haitians and have many that you haven't disclosed to me. And I said, everybody on this panel in this thing that haven't disclosed that they're renting is playing both sides against the middle. I don't call that fair. In fact, what I'm running into is what I've learned in my life. There's posers and there's real people. Real people speak with their heart and tell the truth. The posers just talk to you, sell you things, tell you lies. And I'm hearing a lot of posing in the last 2 years in here. And it disheartens me. It does, and depresses you, and it disheartens you because we aren't getting the representation, what good representatives give you. They serve. They are truthful. They are caring. Those are words that this old man was taught well.
Thank you for your comments, Gary. Darlene Yelled? I'm sorry. Thank you. Y-E, Yealy, is that right? Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm sorry. Go ahead, 3 minutes.
My name is Darlene Yealy. Last year, I made a proposal to several Ohio politicians to help the youth in Springfield. I thought it would be a good idea to create a facility for our youth of all colors, ages 13 to 18, similar to our senior center. A safe place where this age group could learn to follow rules, no boundaries, learn to live with each other peacefully and respectfully, where their voices could be heard in a socially acceptable way, where they could have an outlet for their energy and even wash their clothes. Yes, there's teenagers in Springfield that don't know from night to night where they're going to sleep and shower. A place that's as affordable as senior services, which is $15 a year, with use of everything the Senior Service Center offers. It's a facility that offers youth programs, sports, games, counseling, role models, opportunities, advice, and fun. An alternative to drugs, violence, crimes, and sex. Someone spoke on the higher crime rate in our Black communities. This proposal would especially address that demographic of our community by making it affordable for all. Previous Mayor Copeland's office responded that there are several nonprofits who provide activities for youth. How well has that been working? The YMCA membership and its programs are expensive. So are most youth groups' sports programs. Our then Assistant Mayor, Rob Rue, referred me to the then Community Development Director, who directed me to the representative of House District 74, Bernie Willis. I thought he followed up on my idea when Ohio appropriated $4 million toward Champion City Sports and Wellness Center for Springfield. The total cost will be $17 million plus. When I researched it, I found out I was wrong. It's just another sports complex that will draw people from other places and caters to the middle class, but underprivileged youth and low-income adults can't afford. It's time we put money where our complaints are. I'm a nickel and dime middle-class person. At first, I thought the dollar amount would be unattainable. Then I started looking into the billions that are being bantered about by our government officials. For 2024, the Ohio House voted $1.65 billion in state capital spending and appropriated another $300 million toward local projects across the state. $5 million was allocated to Clark County. Clark County approved $233.9 million budget for 2024. $4 million was allocated for the Champion City Sports and Wellness Center. That's the one that most people won't be able to go, that's lower income and stuff. $750,000 to the A.B. Graham Memorial, $250,000 to the Champion Center Arena Improvement. $27 million was to go to the Clark County Sheriff's Office, up from $19 million in 2023. I would much rather my taxes were spent to decrease the needs of the sheriff's office by addressing the
Thank you so
problems.
much for your comments. We appreciate you. Appreciate the information. Diane Daniels?
Hi, my name is Diana Daniels, and it's been a year. It's been a very long year, and I was very hopeful that we would have some progress. I'm very disappointed that we have had none. The issues that we face have always come up here and repeat themselves over and over and over and over and over again, and nothing is ever resolved. Argentina, Sweden, Venezuela, France, Haiti. What do these words have in common? These are countries. They are defined by their culture and their language, not their color. When folks stand up here and describe what is happening to them, they are often painted with a broad brush of racism. That has nothing to do with it. Color has nothing to do with what we're facing. It's culture. I have yet to be approached in a year's time, and none of us have. The core group that is coming up here and trying to tell you what's going on, have never been approached. There's not a round table for us. There's a round table for the Immigration Accountability Task Force, which I've come to find out has nothing to do with us getting any better, but making it easy for you to be an immigrant. That round table should have started in November, when this was brought to your attention. The core group that has been coming up here Tuesday after Tuesday have great ideas, and it won't cost the state a dime, and it won't cost us a dime. But we have not been approached. But I'm being asked to go to a little round table held by the NAACP. I went to the other one. I didn't like it. I don't think any solution is going to come out of that. We could have started in October and we'd be well ahead. Shame on you.
Thank you, Diane. Yvonne Owens?
Evening. Thank you. Growing up, I was taught to always be thankful and grateful, and to express my gratitude. With that being said, City Commission, thank you. City Manager and your team, thank you. Community Development Director, thank you. Zoning and Planning Committee, thank you. Code Enforcement, thank you. And last but not least, Springfield Police Department, thank you.
Thank you. Eric Klein?
Thank you for having me. My name is Clayton Klein, resident of Springfield. I was here during the tumultuous 1970s and 80s when the whole city was teetering on bankruptcy. I've been delighted to be in here and seeing the Renaissance. I view the future with trepidation. I want to address one specific requirement that will leave everybody should be leaving here tonight and asking, why wasn't this done? And I speak specifically because I had 30 years with the Air Force, and one of my jobs was to go ahead and deal with the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. You mention the EPA and you think about trail derailments, emissions, but they actually have their tentacles right here in the city. Specifically, looking at the infrastructure of a city and an impact that some activity might have on a city. I myself conducted an environmental impact assessment for Del City for the city, but in behalf of the city of Del City, Oklahoma, when the Air Force was supposed to have 800 people come into the city, a city of 30,000, 800 now. Very detailed assessment. It looked at what impact those 800 people would have on the school system. It looked at what impact it would have on the hospital. We got so detailed that we figured out how often a toilet would be flushed every day additionally, and putting an impact on the sewage treatment plant. You sit back and say, wow, was this done? Now that we're faced with this horrible demand on our resources here. And you say, I don't think so. It's not incumbent upon you. No, it's not the city's responsibility to do that. It's this strange entity out there that caused all the problems we have who didn't do it. And I'm speculating because I'm very confused about how this all came about. I'm assuming that it's an NGO, a non-government organization that seems to be immune from any type of. So I'm just asking, has an environmental impact assessment ever come up?
We are going to I've taken your information down, and you will have a detailed answer from our staff.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate your comments.
Well, thank you for giving me the
Thanks
time.
for your service, too. Mike Lowe.
My name is Mike Lowe, and I've been coming to this city commission meeting for many, many years, and I'm shocked when we have these restrictions on these guidelines now. I'm really in shock. But what I really want to talk about, I want my money back. Since 2013, the city has not met the city's charter with the number of officers. I find it hard to believe a lot of officers are retiring each year, which is supposed to be the reason why the city is not meeting the 124 requirement. The city will be using scare tactics to the community to get the income tax renewal passed again. The city will promise we will have safe streets. We will fix your roads. The city is not safe now. 12 and 13-year-old kids are terrorizing the neighborhoods with guns. The juvenile court system is a joke by slapping the kids on the hand and releasing them. 74 times the city of Springfield police were called to the high school from March 23 to May of 24. I have the police report. All property owners in the city should get their money back since the city has failed to meet the city requirements for the officers. The leadership of this city has failed us. They have failed to lead. When am I getting my money back? Also, the property at North Belmont and Larch Street was reported over a year ago and has been sitting empty for years from the fire. When is it going to get cleaned up? And the 14 properties in the West End that was reported to the city going to be taken down. I am tired of coming and asking for these, and you just look and say, we'll look into it, but nothing ever gets done. Please quit wasting my tax dollars. That's what I normally come here for and ask questions. Why are you doing this and why are you doing that? Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Anthony Harris.
All right, I'm 28 years old and I'm a social media influencer and I just be on TikTok and stuff. I do YouTube. I think it's like kind of odd that like a guy like me has to come out from doing what I do on a daily basis to have fun because I see what's going on in these streets and I see you guys just sitting up there in them comfy chairs and suits and I'm getting out here every day and I'm broadcasting this and you guys are just sitting up there in suits or something. Like I really challenge you guys to get out here and do something. These Haitians are running into trash cans. They're running into buildings. They're running into, they flipping cars in the middle of the street. And I don't know how, like, y'all can be comfortable with this. Like, I don't know, like, who's getting paid from this. I feel like I honestly feel like someone's getting paid from it in the background. You got a bunch of people on a bus getting dropped off at a gas station to come down here. I know a single mom that FaceTimed me this morning at the welfare office that really need something. And it's nothing but immigrants over there. And I don't even want to seem like I'm coming down on the immigrants, because it's the people that's bringing them down here. Because wherever they're at, that's what they're used to, bro. They're in the park grabbing up ducks by their neck and cutting their head off and walking off with them and eating them. Like, y'all get the Highway State Patrol down here every week, and then y'all get like a task force for the Highway State Patrol, and they look for guns and they look for dope and this and that and the fourth. That same people that y'all got riding up and down Limestone doing U-turns, pulling people over for blinkers and pulling people over for going left to center and a couple miles over, y'all can take them same people, the Highway State Patrol, and you can take them in every single one of their silver Chargers and Dodge Durangos, and y'all can take them to Sunset, and y'all can park them right over there, and y'all can teach people how to drive, since the Highway State Patrol knows so much about traffic laws and know what to do in traffic. Y'all pay them, they can go over there and teach these Haitians how to drive, because it's getting bro, I'm getting thousands of views on these, and it's going to get bigger, and it's only going to get worse. And y'all sitting up there in these chairs, all y'all need to get out here and do something. Y'all making hundreds of thousands of dollars. Y'all need to put on a t-shirt and some Crocs, and then y'all need to come out here in these streets, and y'all need to go out here and I'm out here before the police is. Y'all need to do something, bro. Y'all really got to stand on business. Y'all getting paid all this money just to wear a suit and sit in a chair. I think it's crazy, bro. We got to do something, bro. It's kids out here getting hurt. Only reason I even went on here and said something about it is because somebody told me they walking from the school and a Haitian almost ran into them. And who is getting paid? How much money is y'all really getting paid? To bring them over here? I know it's deeper than them. I know that's where they come from and that's what they do. That's their country. I don't know what they got going on over there, but they can't do that over here. And if y'all just getting paid from it and then y'all ain't doing nothing about it, I think that's super weird, bro. Y'all got to stand on business. Y'all got to really step up. It's lame, bro. For real.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jeffrey Allen?
Good evening, everyone. Jeffrey Allen, 503 Monaco Drive in Springfield, Ohio. I just want to take a minute for take a deep breath here. Everybody with me? Okay, relax. I haven't been here since they wanted to put the trash dump behind my house over there on Leffels Lane. So it's been a while, and R.I.P. to Warren Copeland. There's a lot going on here, and I was born and raised here. I've been here 67 years, and I've seen a lot. I haven't seen anything like this before, but I know that we can get through this. But we just have to work together. I know everybody's saying that, and there's some people with a lot of high emotions right now, and I can understand, why the emotions are the way that they are. But we here we are, right? So we can't just, like some people want to do, get an army and run people out of town or put them in buses and take them back here or whatever, because if we all really would be realistic, we all came from somewhere, and that's everybody in this room, okay? So at one point in time, and maybe you might not have been wanted there or not, whatever. But what I'm saying is we need to lower the temperature in the city, address what needs to be focused on. It is dangerous for people who can't drive to be driving. I was talking to my wife. I got a minute left. We were discussing maybe we should open up go-kart land again so that people can have a chance to learn how to drive without being on the public streets. But I know that's funny, but I was serious about it because that's where I learned to drive. So what I'm saying is let's put our brains out there. Let's put our hearts there too. Let's work together and let's get this thing straightened out. But all this other stuff. I do want to address one more thing. I got 30 seconds. The policy on not being able to speak on items, not going to fly. First time you bring something to the floor about another trash dump going behind my house, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about it when you're talking about it. Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Peg Foley?
Thank you. I'm Peg Foley, and I live in the city of Springfield. I am grateful to live in a city and country where we can come together to express our views in a peaceful way. In fact, I think most of us are here with a common purpose. We want to live in a safe, prosperous town where people care about each other. Having thousands of new immigrant neighbors move into our city during the past few years has been stressful and overwhelming, but I am hopeful for a shared future with them. Speaking from personal experience, our Haitian neighbors and other newcomers I have met have been kind, grateful, hardworking people who want to play a positive role in our community. They are students, employees, business owners, and consumers who are contributing to our city. A few days ago, I came across an article by the George W. Bush Institute entitled Immigrants and Opportunities in American Cities. The study noted that immigrants have helped to preserve and revitalize American cities. While welcoming newcomers and helping them adapt does have its costs, these costs are small relative to the large economic benefits immigrants bring to local communities and the national economy. Our new neighbors can learn, earn, belong, and contribute when our cities pursue policies that expand opportunities for everyone, native-born and foreign-born people alike. Everyone benefits in a community with quality schools, safe housing, and access to healthy foods and health care. Last week, Michelle Obama expressed the following sentiments. We all deserve the opportunity to build a decent life. We need real ideas and solutions that will actually make lives better and ensure everyone has enough. It is up to us to be the solution we seek. I am willing to be part of the solution, as are many, many others here in Springfield. Thank you.
Thank you, Peg. Lisa Hayes?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Lisa Hayes, and I am a resident of Springfield, Ohio, and I'm also a registered voter. Okay. I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, and I'm a great-grandmother. I have family here in this town. You know, it's the first time I've ever spoke at the commission meeting, and I'm going to try to make it a good talk with you. Okay, I would like to know how many of you sitting up there tonight go into the grocery stores here in the city, Walmart, here in the city, to do your shopping. I'm going to tell you, 64 years old, and I don't know what kind of label you can put on this, but I'm taking my cart down the grocery aisle, and I have 3 immigrants strapped across the aisle. Seen me coming, would not budge, wouldn't even, and I said, excuse me. Maybe they didn't understand what I was saying, but I'm sure they understood that I was trying to get through that aisle. So I have no recourse now but to bust through it. I'm not afraid to do so. You know, I would like to see them have some common respect, some common decency. Do not try to bully your way through Springfield, Ohio. It's not going to work out well. Yeah, I don't believe it will work out well at all. I have a 20-year-old granddaughter who works 2 jobs, pays city tax. I have a 23-year-old grandson who also pays city tax and federal and state and all the other stuff. She works 2 jobs. She's pregnant. It took us 4 months to get Medicaid for that young lady, and she couldn't have any of her tests done. I had to come up with $150 for her very first doctor's appointment. It's $150. Then I'm told that when she does get the Medicaid, they'll back it up. Are they going to give me my $150 back? I doubt it. I doubt it. And I know that's not your problem. That's a state problem, and I will address them. I already have. The other thing is that I sat down and I decided I was going to start emailing some of the higher ups to the state. Started emailing them. Within one day, they called me and said that they didn't have permission to talk to me because she's 20. I said, that's okay, she'll be home at 2. That morning, she received an automated phone call that she was covered by Medicaid since August 15th. All of a sudden, now she's covered. All of a sudden, now she can get the help. But we can't get through the doors of JFS to do anything. We can't get through it. The line is so long. And that's what we have done here in the city. We have just brought too many daggone people to come in here and be able to apply for free stuff. And here we are working, paying those taxes every week for what? What? So she can't get any help? So we can't get through the doors of Social Security so I can file for retirement? Doors are too, it's packed up there all the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Marcita Jeffrey.
I'm not going to be so stressful to you this evening. I just wanted to ask a question about the work being done on Yellow Spring Street. I have a problem with them blocking my business in, and my patrons can't get to my lot. I've spoken to the inspector, and he did have them move the trucks and everything, but when he's not there, they block us off. Both sides of my parking lot. You can come in on either side, but they usually have both sides blocked off. Now, my other thing was, I'd like to know what is in our water. Because I stood there and watched them pull the pipes from underground. Well, they dug the ditches first, and then it rained. And when it rained, I noticed that the birds were playing in the water and animals were drinking from the water and everything. Well, once they pulled the pipes up out of there and it filled with water again from the pipe, no animal would touch it. No birds would land in it. No dogs, they would walk up to it, turn around, and go away. So it just made me wonder, the animals are trying to tell me something. What is in our water? Thank you.
Thank you. Nathaniel Higgers.
Good evening to the people of Springfield. You don't know who I am. My name is Nathaniel Higgers of Blood Tribe. I was at the head of the anti-Haitian immigration march earlier this month. I'm sure the Honorable Mr. Rob Rue recognizes me, considering he supposedly knew of our action before we even arrived.
He's a literal Nazi. He marched with swastikas.
First of all,
Do not
I would like to dispel the myth that you knew of our march and intentionally had no reaction or made no forewarning about it as a preventative measure. You had no more idea than the police officers or Haitians. And it's frankly insulting to our organization to make such a claim. Second, I've come to bring a word of warning. Stop what you're doing before it's too late. Crime and savagery will only increase with every Haitian you bring in. And with it, public frustration and anger.
You sound threatening to me. I'm going to
Based on the comments
if I could ask the police to go ahead.
I'm
and
sure I don't need to tell you that.
Just sound threatening if you go ahead and just peacefully be removed.
These people didn't ask for this. And they deserve better than to have to put up with violent,
Thank you
unruly
so much.
outsiders.
You're done. Thank you. That's all. Thank you so much. Not really thank you, but. Cindy Phillips.
The last meeting, I asked how much the insurance check was for the Villager Inn and where those funds are currently. First of all, I'd like to thank Katie for responding to my questions so quickly. I was advised that the insurance check was a total of $360,000, that one of 4 buildings had received 30% damage. The fire chief and commissioners thought it was best to demo the building due to current damage and current vandalism and the future vandalism, and that there would be a new fire station is going to be built there. $360,000 covered the cost of the demo. My questions tonight are, I just would like to know, how do you justify demoing a homeless shelter when you have the funds to repair it? Does the city have a plan to replace the villager? And what is the plan to help the homeless now?
We will have answers to those questions in detail. Ken Seelig, Baron? Okay. So I just want to make a comment. This isn't commission comment, but the reason I asked that person to leave is because in our guidelines, the moment you begin to sound threatening, that's when we say that's enough. That's not free speech, that's a threat. I just want to make that clear, and that's why we did that. There's one more gentleman that wanted to speak. I was going to take a card. Are you okay with that? Or, okay, I have one more person. You can go right to that podium. I'll say your name as you're going over there, sir. Aaron, you're up after this gentleman. So, Lonnie Cole Jr. Go ahead, sir. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, how you doing? To start, I'd like to make sure that I make a point that I'm speaking about illegal immigrants, fast tracking of illegal immigrants, people that jump the fence, and we give them a place to stay. All right, illegal immigrants cost taxpayers billions of dollars. There are proper channels to which to become an American citizen. There's a line, get in the back. There's been people waiting for years that are willing to go through the proper channels to become a working member of society, not dependent on a handout from taxpayers. The only people that don't take the proper channels are people that would never make it through the front door, that don't deserve to be here, and take the opportunity away from somebody who does. The criminals, degenerates in other countries of becoming criminals and degenerates of other countries are becoming America's dependents. Over 1.5 million people have died in America's history in order to ensure the freedoms and the rights that we all enjoy every day. They died to ensure our freedom, not the whole world. Illegals do not get to get washed in the blood of our fallen soldiers because they don't want to fight for their own freedoms at home. I suggest that like Americans of past and present, they pick up arms and fight in their own countries for their freedoms. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, no clapping, please. Thank you. Baron?
In keeping with the new theme, I have 6 questions. So I'll just run through them and we'll sort the answers out either later tonight, I guess you're doing it, or by email, whatever it takes. Question 1. What email can questions be submitted to for written responses? Number 2, can the city work harder at updating the website? Number 3, can the city hire someone to answer phones better for questions asked by taxpayers? Number 4, can you explain the process of a citizen wanting to place an item on the agenda so they could expound longer than the 3 minutes? Number 5, how many code enforcement officers does the city currently employ? How many adjudications were issued so far in 2024? How many adjudications have been resolved? How much revenue from the adjudications so far in 2024? Number 6, Has anyone on the city council now or in the past been professionally or personally connected to George 10, Carl Ruby, or any other person or organization in favor of welcoming or sanctuary city policies? The last thing I want to bring up as most people that know me in here know, I'm a member of the Highway Hikers Motorcycle Club, and for 46 years now, we've had a toy drive that comes through the heart of Springfield. We've had as many as 4,000 motorcycles, and we do it for the kids of Clark County. I've got people from media sensation, whatever it is, I got people who normally support this that aren't coming this year because they said they're going to get run over. I said, that's horseshit. We block it all, you know. It's all good. Guys, help me. Help me. Get on. Tell people, you know, hey, this is our city. We love what the hikers do. You know, if not, we're not going to make it to 50 years. And that's all this old man wants to do. I want to make it to my 50th year of saying, for 50 consecutive years, I helped the kids of Clark County. Last year alone, 3,000 children got Christmas as a result of that toy run. You know, I know there's no applaud, but jazz hands. That's amazing. That's amazing. Let's not let the tinderbox that we got going here right now and the people that are throwing matches light it. That's a good thing.
Thank you, Mayor.
Let's do that.
Thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
Okay. This is, that concludes our comments. I'm going to go ahead and begin. We'll ask for the same respect we gave those that spoke, whether you agree or disagree with their statements. We ask that you not make any applause, any comment from your seat. We would just like the same courtesy you received. I would like to answer a question or a statement that was posed at the last and brought up again tonight by Gary Armstrong. I want to talk about the accusation of me having a relationship with, or excuse me, in a partnership with somebody that owns several rentals, and I'm benefiting from immigrants in our community and owning rentals. I do not. I do have an LLC that owns the business that I work in, and I have 3 properties attached to that have 7 total rentals. When I bought, I have owned 2 of the rentals that have non-Haitian folks in it for 15 years. They're adjacent to my business. I bought 2 other properties. One of them, when I was 1 year old, I was actually raised in there for a year. The whole purpose was because of right behind my business to own these properties so we could have control of how they look. Over the decades that I've seen them, they've been in shambles, and it's not that way anymore. I have control over the property. Each side is a 3-bedroom, 1-bath that I charge $900 for. That's it. You've just heard the extent of my entire rental property history. I'm not a good renter landlord because I don't fix things well, and it costs me more money to have them than it does what I earn off them, just to be very clear. So that's why I have properties. I can see all my properties from my office and when I walk the property. The whole purpose is to be able to have a little bit of control over the neighborhood so it looks good for the folks that are at our business. So that is the end of my rental property. I told Mr. Armstrong that I could talk to him for 45 minutes on the phone this last week, trying to make a connection, not to silence him, just to share some truth. I in no way have had, and I'm speaking for myself, have benefited at all from any of the immigrants that come in our community personally. I'm not colluding with anybody. I have no relationship with any business that I have ever been able to benefit from any immigrants in our community or the influx of the population we have. I'm not benefiting at all from that. I want to make that very clear. I make $14,500 and some change here being a mayor of Springfield. And that job will end in 3 years and 4 months, okay? And that is what I make as a city commissioner that I spend more than 15 to 30 hours a week on that I did not anticipate I would be spending, more like 5, okay? I'm not trying to prove anybody wrong. You don't have to agree. I'm just trying to give you some facts. Now, as far as traffic concerns, I have 5 children, 2 are in college, 3 are home with me, and I hate the traffic concerns that you all see. And I'm not going to speak for any other commissioner, but they are a deep concern. And across the community, we hear this. All sides of the aisle, all levels of politics, all races, we are concerned about the traffic. I personally am concerned about the traffic. I have almost hit and been hit myself. I have kids that are learning how to drive well, and it is a concern. I have the same fears that you as mom and dads and grandma and grandpas and aunts and uncles have. I say this with passion. When I hear you telling us or telling me, you don't care, it is the farthest from truth. And the most frustrating thing I have as one of your leaders is my hands are tied in many ways. However, a year ago, in these exact commission meetings, almost to the date, just a little bit longer, maybe in September, we were reprimanded. You are our leaders. It is your job to represent us. That's what people said, because meetings like this started to fill up about 2 weeks about the middle of September and has been consistent, the consistent concerns. You are our representatives. You are to represent us. I will speak from what I've done, and I know other commissioners have represented as well. I have created and tried to forge a relationship with our federal, with Congressman Turner. Others have relationships and trying to get to know these folks because they have federal money. This program, this TPS program, was an executive order by the White House done through and approved by executive order, and it was a Homeland Security policy. This means that it has no federal funding because it did not come through Congress. That is the facts. I don't care who's in the White House right now. I'm just telling you that's what happened. So what we're asking for Turner is we're not begging for money for immigrants or immigration. We're asking for money for translation services. Because if we can bridge the gap of communication with the people here who are not leaving anytime soon, they're just not. But if we can bridge that gap of communication, we're going to do something. So when I'm asking Turner, who I've met with 3 times and gone to DC, I said, enough is enough. We need some action when it comes to finances. It has to happen. And so we're working with him. The same thing with our state level. You asked us to represent. I've been to the governor's residence more than I ever thought I would in my entire life because Governor DeWine has made it a purpose to make sure he knows what's going on in Springfield and other cities in the area. I met with him and his cabinet just last week representing Springfield. And this was my 3rd time there in about 4 months. And one of the things we said, okay, we've been here 3 times. We've talked to you on the phone. Enough is enough. We need some action steps. One of the things that came up with one of his cabinet members, Andy Wilson's a former resident of Clark County, is the fact that we are deeply concerned about our traffic. And I've asked Andy as we were talking, can we come up with a plan? I'm going to read it because I have notes for you. With a plan to help enforce laws and over reckless driving on our roads. So what we're doing is we're working with the Department of Public Safety. We just had a meeting with them about 3:15 today. It was Andy Wilson, the Director of Public Safety for the state of Ohio, the Lieutenant Colonel and Captain of the State Highway Patrol, and 3 other state highway representatives, all sitting in the office with our chief and with our Deputy Safety Director. We're asking for a program that will focus on reckless operations, speeding, red light violations, and distracted driving. And we're going to initiate a 30-day blitz. And this will be highly publicized. This is not a sneak attack. This is not something we're going to sit behind bushes, or they're going to sit behind bushes and try to find people. This will be widely publicized. There'll be press conference with all of us there. We will discuss this, and it will be an effort to bring attention to the enforcement of the driving laws on our roads. Some of you may say, too late, too sorry. That's not true. It took a long time to even get to this point, longer than I wish. But at the same point, we have come up with a plan. Is a 30-day blitz or a surge to help our law enforcement and the Clark County law enforcement with these reckless traffic violations? It's not a fix, but it's a start to bring awareness to this. And lastly, I would respectfully say to Haitian leaders in our community, please, please, please communicate to people who you can communicate with your language to stop driving without the legal licensure and education to drive the cars. I know that is a no-brainer, but please, please, if you're a pastor of a Haitian community or you speak Haitian Creole, please just communicate that. We're not asking you to leave because we're just not in that place. We can't do that right now. But we are asking you to drive safely on our roads. So that's what I would beg of you as one of the leaders in this community. So those are things that I wanted to share. There is a lot of times where we sit up here silent and I don't agree with what's being said and say nothing. And sometimes it looks like I'm responsible because I've said nothing. To be honest, we are trying to dial down the emotions. I know I'm emotional with you, but I want to make sure I stress my points and how important these things are for me as I share them with you as one of your commissioners. So thank you for letting me share. I just want to make sure you heard that and be willing to talk or discuss. If you private message me on Facebook, I try to talk with you. I have talked with many people, as I know the other commissioners have, and some people will say, I don't care what you say, I'll never believe you. I guess the conversation then is over at that point. But when I dialogue with people who are super mad and furious or go visit their houses because they got heaps of trash over there, I'm there because I care just like you do about the community, and I know other commissioners on this dais care as well. Okay? So that's what I wanted to share. Been waiting to share that. I'm glad we moved comments right after your comments. So I am done talking. Other commissioner comments?
Yes, I have some.
Commissioner?
I'm sorry, I didn't get your name, ma'am, in the orange dress. I wanted to inform you that we do have programming called U Media at the Dome, which is 700 South Limestone, where South High School used to be at, and that's open and free to any middle school and high school student, and they do not have to be Springfield City School kids. Right. So they have opportunities for, there's a full recording studio there. There are sewing classes. There's glass blowing classes. They also receive a meal there and snacks there while they're there. There are cooking courses. Goodness gracious, homework assistance. There's tons of video games and big screen TVs and just a myriad of things that a young person can access. So that is at the Dome, and it is for it's for students who are again in middle school up. So let me read it off: 3D printing, audio recording, computer programming, gaming, graphic design, painting, photography, poster painting, sewing, technical theater, t-shirt production, videography, virtual reality, welding, wood shop, and much more.
Could you please take your comments? I'm sorry, you can, and also, I don't mean to interrupt, Commissioner. If we could have conversation step outside, that would be great. And also, we're trying to avoid dialogue conversation, but Commissioner, go ahead as you wish. Yes.
So are we avoiding?
We're just trying to keep the dialogue here. But
Got it.
Go ahead, you're in charge.
We'll touch base, okay? But if you look up, it's yes, ma'am. Okay. But definitely, if you have teenagers that are looking for middle school, thank you. I just wanted to share out that piece. And then I know, and I hope this does not come across as, I just know that if you in your heart want to make changes in Springfield, whether they align with my thoughts or not, please, I encourage you to involve yourself in your party, whatever your party may be, in those become a precinct captain within your party, run for city commission, whatever it may be. You know, I really would welcome everybody. Run against me, please. And I'm not saying that in a smug way, but it would be nice, you know, if we see more people getting involved in that area of the process. I would really love to see that happening. And where did he go? Where's Barron? Great. It's his birthday. So I wanted to give him like an official birthday shout out. We are exactly 1 week apart. So if y'all see Barron, tell him that Crystal Brown said happy birthday.
Okay. Yeah, Rob, I'm kind of going to follow your lead, I guess, a little bit. And just disclose I own no rental properties. And I don't have, well, I have one LLC, but we don't rent anything. I just would also like to address some of the narratives being floated around that honestly really divide this city even more. I'm not making any money off of any immigrants. In fact, I'd be happy to show you my bank statements. I've probably lost money this year from the time I've taken away from my family, and our business, and it's put additional stress on my husband for managing our business. And then there was another comment tonight about city commissioners not going out to grocery stores. I promise you, I only grocery shop in Springfield because I don't have time to do anything else. And then, Rob, you kind of mentioned what we've done as commissioners to address issues in our city right now. And I will also add what I've done. So I met with JD Vance's team back in April and talked to him about concerns for police and fire funding and more resources for our safety services. Also met with our state rep. And I have another meeting with JD Vance in a few weeks. So if anyone would like to join me on that, feel free. Yeah, you can join me. That's all I have other than, sorry, I write down what everyone says so I can refer back to it. Someone asked about the long-term plan for homelessness in the city of Springfield. And without Sheltered Inc. right now, there truly wouldn't be a plan. And there isn't a concrete plan right now going forward. So I truly hope that we can work together with all community entities to develop that. That's all I have.
Really quickly, I want to add an addendum. Thank you. I work in public education. So we're probably have the most degrees and make the least amount of money. And I look up at Miss Daniels because she gets it, working in public education for sure. I live on the east side of town in a 900 square foot home on a slab. I drive a Kia. I don't have an LLC. I don't have any rental properties because, again, ding, 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 I work in public education. And this job does not pay $100,000 a year or $60,000. It's more, as Rob said, about $300 to $500 a month, which, okay, I will gladly take it and serve the city. But I do not. When I hear comments like you need to come down off of those seats, I, again, work in public education. I have 4 school buildings within the district, and I've served this community for years in working with our public. And that comes, it don't matter who comes across my job, I have to work with and serve. I bring that same spirit here. So I drive a Kia. Let me do anything else to let y'all know exactly how poor and middle class I am. I won't even say I'm actually middle class. I probably don't even fit in that bracket anymore. But I understand the middle class value and the drive to want to become greater and better for yourself, your family, and your community. So I really, listening to Bridget, wanted to really share that out. Like, I go to Kroger's on East Main. I go to the Walmart on East Main. I'm born and raised on the south side of Springfield, Ohio, where people are afraid to go. In the South End, which were metropolitan housing called the Bricks. So I'm not removed from it. And I can't speak for nobody else, but I'm out here every single day in these, as I call them, Springfield streets, serving all people from all walks of life like it's nobody's business. So I really wanted to say, please know that I don't even have no rental properties, and nothing I'm doing is nothing with the immigration issues am I benefiting from by any stretch of the imagination. Thank you.
Commissioner Tackett.
Dr. Escrow.
Crystal, Commissioner Brown covered some of what I wanted to ask on the record. I can assure you, if I was getting paid $100,000 a year for this job, the city owes me a lot of money in back pay. So, for the record, Mrs. Evanston, our Director of Finance, what are the respective salaries for those of us who have been elected to this commission?
The salary range for commissioners, including the mayor, is $11,019.06 to $14,687.92 annually.
So per year, the highest salary any of us can be paid, and that would be the mayor, likely, is $14,000. Could you repeat it, please?
$14,687.92.
And the lowest salary any of us earn?
$11,019.06.
So if that gentleman is right, I would suggest you that the city of Springfield owes me a lot of money. But I don't think he is right, and that has never been an issue for me. The other thing I want to encourage, we have letters, and on the second page of this letter are all the people who are responsible for making some of the decisions that you have raised, and we have said that's a state issue or that's a federal issue. So if you want to have an impact on the decisions being made at the state or federal level, please take one of these, and on the second page, you will find their names and addresses in which you can send the letter. Because these are the folks who represent us at the federal and state level, and in fact are making the policies that some of you are complaining about. We can't change federal or state policy. That's not in our power. These folks can. So if you want your voice to be heard by the right people, please send these folks a letter and let them know how you're feeling about some of the federal and state policies. Thank you.
Commissioner Tackett.
All right, since we're talking personal, I'm a starving artist. I've had a small business for a decade here in downtown Springfield. My husband and I are both from here. He works at Navistar. I have no LLCs, no rentals. I do want to say I just graduated from The Ohio State University in May, and I'm seeking employment, and that is even a struggle right now as I sit in this seat making my $11,000 a year to get a job here now. So I just wanted to disclose that. And then also in regards to J.D. Vance and Senator Brown's office, I love that the senators are interested in coming here. Actually, Senator Brown's office was in the House tonight. He was in Clark County all day today, and he was here on Tuesday. J.D. Vance has canceled on me 5 times. So I would love to get in on that meeting, Commissioner Houston. And thank you to Job and Family Services for spending time with me this week, giving me an overview as I continue to do boots on the ground work for the city of Springfield and make no assumptions, get in there and learn about the actual businesses and organizations that are dealing with several issues that we all are dealing with. I did want to bring up the fellow that brought up the environmental survey that the city employee is going to send over. I would like a copy of that. And I would also like a copy of the city's plan for the homelessness, because there should have never been no other plan when you put that much money in front of us without any information and expected us to vote on it. I will not vote that way. I need information when you ask me for $1 million. And I will give credit to Brian and Katie and Jill. They have all pulled together, and we do get to meet often. Brian offered that the Friday before this meeting so that we can go through there and make sure I have all the information so I feel informed to make $1 million vote. And I just want to clear that up as this continues. We need a plan for the homelessness. I am disheartened to hear there is nobody working on this, and what it feels like nobody's working on this. So I don't want it locked up. It doesn't stop. Every day is lost as we get closer to a closing date for Sheltered Inc. So thank you.
Now that we have our birthday boy back in the house, happy birthday, Barrett. We sang happy birthday. I mean, the whole place was on fire. You missed it.
Okay. We'll go ahead and take a break, and then we'll begin our business meeting. Thank you.
You want us to answer questions?
No, I'm sorry. There's good questions to be had answered by Brian.
Yes, so I'm going to do my best here. First, I want to just speak to a couple things because I get often tied in my position to the same questions that are asked of our commissioners and our mayor. I can tell you I do not own any rentals. I do not own any businesses. I can assure you of that. And as far as grocery shopping and stuff is concerned, yes, I shop right here in Springfield. Now, as we all find, You have to go to different places to find the best deal on stuff. So Meijer, Kroger, Aldi, Groceryland, you name it, I make my way there. Probably spend more in gas, but I want that deal when I'm shopping. And then, I haven't been on Facebook for over 6 weeks because it just wasn't good for my own mental health, the stuff that's said about me and so forth. So I haven't been on Facebook, but I know some of the things that are being said. And so I take this opportunity, one, to speak specifically, I'm glad that I get to, about my faith, because it gets called out about where I attend church. And I'll give everybody the history of my church. Where I grew up in New Carlisle, so I went to First United Methodist Church until I moved into Springfield, and my wife and I, when we got married, we were looking for a church to attend. We started attending First Christian Church, which is up on Middle Urbana Road, used to be downtown here, but out on Middle Urbana Road. Went to that church probably 9 years. My kids grew up for the most part in that church, and then if you remember, they had a big change with their pastor. And he left, and we took that, and we ended up going to Restoration Park Church. That's the church that used to be a truck depot out there at 675 and 70. So we went there probably 4 or 5 years, and then COVID hit. And frankly, COVID, we watched a lot of church online, mostly Restoration Park, and did not attend physically in the building. And then from there, we were kind of searching. My son plays travel baseball, so Sundays are tough. We were trying to find a place closer to where we live, and so we were visiting churches. I can tell you I did attend Central Christian Church, where Carl Ruby is, for about 6-7 services. We decided, honestly, that was not the style of worship. We like a more contemporary style of worship, and so we left that church and went back. We're actually at First Christian Church again. I'll tell you, my attendance isn't great. Again, because my son playing travel baseball and is mostly doing tournaments on the weekends. But so I just wanted to answer that because I know those things are out there, and I feel like I want to set the record straight because I oftentimes, I'm off Facebook now, but there's groups that talk about me that I'm not even allowed to be in. So I'd like to share that information with you. Now, to trying to answer as many questions as we can, and there will be some that we'll have to follow up with you later on, and we will do such, and then we will also post those on our website. First thing right out of the gate was about the executive inn and the comments about why were they thrown out. I want to speak from the perspective as I run the day-to-day operations of the city. This is a city manager form of government. And so I have to do things that protect the liability of people in our community as well as our organization. I can tell you after the vote when Homeful's contract was not renewed, they were no longer under contract. And so Logan Cobbs and I went out that very next morning. We had a meeting with the Homeful staff at 9 a.m. to talk about a plan, to understand the plan for them exiting that facility, because again, they're a nonprofit, but they're also a business that have liability too. And without a contract, that's not a good business practice. Any of us that own a business or an entity, that's not a good practice. There's a lot of liability concerning that. And so that day we went out there at 9 a.m. We were told that was going to be their last day of operation because, again, they did not have a contract. And for their business sake, liability concerns, I do understand why they had to make that business decision. They didn't want to, I can tell you that. And so we, Logan, myself, Rob was there, and others from my staff. One of the hardest and most challenging times of my career is standing in front of 22 families with young kids. I'm talking young kids, and tell them, you're not going to be able to stay here today. This is your last day here. We have to work to move you somewhere. Because I cannot keep individuals, families, young children in a facility that does not have an operator. That it's not safe for them. It's not safe for anyone involved in that situation for them to just stay in there with no operator, nobody that's helping with food, nobody's that's helping manage who's coming in and who's coming out. I can't do that. That's a significant liability on the city itself. And so we had to inform people, we have no operator, so you're going to have to go. I can tell you my staff worked tirelessly that day to help. It wasn't just, hey, you're out and we're off the property. I can speak to Logan directly and members of our service department team and stuff. They were there until the last family was placed. They did not leave that site, that property, until the last family was placed, that they knew they had somewhere they were going that night. And that's the care and the compassion that my staff has each and every day for this community. And so that is what happened. They weren't just thrown out. We did not have an operator of that facility. I could not in good conscience leave, again, families, individuals, young children in a facility with no operator. And so my staff did step up in a big way and help them till the very last one was placed. So that's what happened that day after that vote. The next piece was on the environmental impact study assessment. I'm going to ask Jason Vi, our Deputy Director of Public Safety, to speak about. Directly, no. Has there been a direct environmental impact study assessment performed? No, there's not. But Jason can speak to the efforts of the Haitian Coalition that was formed back probably even before October, of multiple entities and multiple groups in our community trying to find solutions to the challenges and issues that we've seen with this surge in population.
Good evening, and thank you for your question. The Clark County Haitian Coalition consists of approximately 60 community members. It is comprised of the Clark County Combined Health District, the United Way, Springfield City Schools, the Nehemiah Foundation, Rocking Horse, Job and Family Services, Catholic Social Services, St. Vincent de Paul, and the City of Springfield. There are a myriad of other organizations who also participate, including public, nonprofit, and private stakeholders who work together to coordinate and streamline services. Several examples of these services are translation services, courses for learning English as a second language, driver's training, workforce issues for employers and employees, healthcare, legal and safety concerns, and education on landlord-tenant rights.
Brian, any other?
Yes, sorry about that. Next one, police charter requirement was brought up. And so, yes, currently today, I want to talk about our numbers as it stands today. We are currently at 120. Our charter requirement is 124. With the passage of the 0.4%, we are budgeted authorized strength at 130. I can tell you, we are living in a very difficult time in hiring officers. I remember when we would do a test or a civil service process, we would get 300 to 500 people that would show up and take that test. We're lucky now. I'll say I was happy the last test. We had 64 sign up. Only 34 actually showed up to take the test. I think 29 passed. And then there's a series of polygraphs, psych exams, other things, because again, we're not going to sacrifice quality over quantity of our officers. That is how communities get into trouble. We're going to hire good officers for the streets of Springfield, Ohio to serve our community. And so I can tell you it's not for a lack of effort or trying. We have run more civil service testing processes in the last 2 years than we did the previous 10. Because we are trying to actively hire officers, and that is a problem not just here in Springfield, Ohio. It's across the state. It's across the country. Cleveland's down 400 now. Columbus is down significantly. It is a problem across the country in hiring police officers because the national rhetoric towards policing has made a lot of people not choose that profession. And that's sad, and that's the truth. We are in an active process right now. We've actually expanded out to the National Testing Network, and we have 8 that selected Springfield from that. So I'm hopeful that we're going to continue, and we're going to make those strides, and we're going to get that. Yes, there are retirements. We had a big hiring process that happened in the 90s. That was when we went from 99 to 124. That was when we had the charter requirement, but also the special police levy fund that generated that to go to 124. So we had a lot of hiring in the 90s. they're hitting that 25, 30, 35-year mark. They are retiring, and we have faced that. Now, we have stemmed the tide of that a little bit. I know we have a couple pending coming up in 2025 that we're trying to plan accordingly for. And we've also stemmed the tide of those that were leaving for other communities because we have put in place better contracts to pay our officers for the work that they're doing. And that is helping, but it's still, we haven't seen the complete fruits of that yet, but we're getting closer. North Belmont and large property and the cleanup of that, I'm going to ask Jill Allen to speak because I know our legal department is actually working on this matter.
So as of right now, I believe what we're doing is looking at options with the EPA as far as remediation goes, and we're looking at any kind of funding resources we can have for that property. We've looked at code enforcement for it. We've looked at how much it would be for us to address it too, and it's extremely expensive for the city to do anything to abate the nuisances there.
Can you speak to the water? Can Chris come over and talk
Yeah,
about
I'm
the
gonna
water
have
issue in
him.
Yellow
Yep.
Springs?
I think I am, or I'm there. Yes, so South Yellow Spring Street and an update on the construction, and then also about the water piece to that as well and what's in our water.
So as far as the construction goes, I want to speak to get an exact location. Do I think the contractor's blocking the driveway? Absolutely. They're looking for the quickest way to get work done, and if we turn our back, they're gonna try to do that. So if I learn where the driveway is, I can talk to the contractor, talk to the inspector, and make every effort to make sure that doesn't happen because it should not happen. They're paid to maintain traffic, and they need to maintain traffic. As far as what's in the water, I brought you a copy of our consumer confidence report. It tells everything that's in our water. We are an open book. I'm drinking it now. I've been drinking it all night. What you experienced out there, without knowing which pipes, they dug up 3 different pipes on Yellow Spring Street. One of those pipes could have been the sewer pipe. And generally, when we dig up the sewer pipe, the animals don't flock to that. That's how at the wastewater treatment plant we know things are going well, because late in the treatment process, the birds start to visit. But they don't come early in the treatment process because it's pretty nasty. So any details you want are in the consumer confidence report. If anyone is interested, this is available on our website. And all of our lab reports are wide open. We are fully audited by the U.S. and Ohio EPA on an annual basis.
Thank you.
The next kind of related to the homelessness and the demolishing the villager and so forth. So I'm going to have Katie do that. I want to start with, so I just want everybody here in the audience and those watching to know. So the Friday before every commission meeting, we will post the agenda to the city commission or to the city of Springfield's website. So that agenda is available. And any items, so the items that you see before us tonight that we vote on, if there is a contract associated with that, if there is an agreement, oftentimes grant agreements are a piece of that, those are available too as attachments as a part of that. So that information is provided prior to Tuesday night. So Tuesday night's not the first time that information is made available. It is available for everybody to see, and that includes information that is attached to each of those specific items or those requests that are being made or those recommendations for the commission to consider. So I want everyone to know that stuff is available. Also, our team, our staff is available to answer. If you see an agenda item and you have a contract question and you want to ask questions, and if you're not getting an answer to your call my office, call the city manager's office, email me. I will make sure that you get an answer if you have an answer to the legislative items. We would not bring any item before this without providing information, and we're always available to ask or answer or get information to you about any legislative items prior to a meeting. That is just something we've always done. It's always available. It's always ready. I'll address the website piece here in a minute after Katie talks to it, but I want people to know that's available to them. Also, I want people to know too, they don't have to wait every 2 weeks to come. I love that people come and ask questions, but if you have a question, feel free to reach out to my office. They're on the doors out there. We did a QR code. If you scan that QR code, it takes you to a form that you can fill out, and it will send an email directly to me. And I'll make sure that the appropriate staff follows up with you. So you don't have to wait every 2 weeks if you have a question. Ask us. I say it all the time, my staff gives me a hard time. Our best citizens are our most informed citizens, and we have an obligation to help inform you for that. So I want you to feel like if you have a question, ask it. At the end of the day, you may still not agree with the answer, but at least you have the information from our end. And so we want you to ask those questions, and I want you to know you don't have to wait every 2 weeks if you have a question. Katie, if you want to talk about the Homeful and the Villager site.
Certainly, I'll speak to the Villager and just reiterate what Ms. Phillips had stated in my phone call with her. We received 2 separate insurance checks totaling roughly $360,000. The insurance proceeds were based on the fire damage, which impacted a small percentage of one of 4 buildings. So keeping in mind that the Villager consisted of 4 separate buildings and only a certain portion was impacted by fire. Commission had a special meeting at the recommendation of city staff and determined that a real and present emergency existed and to enter into a contract for emergency demolition in order to avoid further risk to the health and safety of the public and our first responders. The cost to fully demo was around the $360,000 that we received in insurance proceeds. Those checks were deposited back into our general fund, and I would view that those funds coming back into our general fund as an offset for the cost to demolish that property. In addition, prior to the fire and the subsequent demolition of the Villager, the city had released an RFP, a request for proposals or a bid for the redevelopment of the former Villager Inn to serve multiple purposes in our community, from affordable housing to emergency shelter. And unfortunately, we did not receive any submissions, including from local partners, that we could advance forward with.
And then the 6 questions that Mr. Barron asked, what email questions being submitted to. So again, on our website, we'll make that QR code or that form available on our website. But if you scan that QR code out there too, it takes you to a form, and that email comes directly to me, and then I will assign it out to the appropriate staff. As far as our website, I agree with you, Barron. We're actually working through the 25 budget process to have an update or an upgrade to our website because it needs it. I agree. Answer phones better for taxpayers. One of the things that I know I emphasize and my leadership team emphasizes is customer service. And that includes answering the phone, returning voicemails and so forth. And so I know that is a practice that everybody can get better with, but it is something that we continue to emphasize, and I will continue to emphasize that we're answering phones and we're returning voicemails if we weren't able to answer that. Citizen items on the agenda. Honestly, Barron, you can speak to any legislative item, you can speak during the public comments, but this is a business meeting. So recommendations for legislation and policy changes, you can make those suggestions. That doesn't mean it's going to make the agenda, and it doesn't give you that format. Code enforcement officers employed, I believe we're at 3 total right now, plus the manager. But on the information as far as adjudications, those resolved in the revenues, I will have somebody follow up with you on that. We'll do that research and put that together from January 1 to date. And then we'll also post that on the website for individuals. And I think that's pretty much it. You asked commission professionally or personally on welcoming Springfield and different individuals. I think they each answered those things during their comments. And that is, and then Katie's got additional revenue and bus transportation.
So Mr. Harris had commented about revenue coming into the city and buses at Love's truck stop. So on additional revenue coming into the city's main source of revenue is income tax revenue. We have not seen a correlation between population and income tax revenue growth. For 2023, income tax revenue was up 1.3% compared to 2022. Again, 1.3% up in 2023 compared to 2022. Annual wage growth in the state of Ohio for that time period was 3.1%. which would indicate that the city's income tax revenue percentage increase for 2023, that 1.3% compared to 2022, was actually declining when we consider wage growth throughout the state of Ohio. In addition, our annual HUD, which is Housing and Urban Development as an Entitlement Community, dollars, which is our CDBG, Community Development Block Grant, ESG, Emergency Solutions Grant, and our home dollars, were reduced by more than 8% over the past year, from last year to this year. Also, the city, in relation to the Love's Truck Stop and buses, the city is not funding or receiving monies for transportation for immigrants to come to Springfield.
Thank you. Okay, so if there's any other follow-up, the city will post, also answer any emails. We have all the emails and information on these cards here. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break, and then we'll begin our business meeting. As a reminder, during business meeting, public comments will be received for after first readings and also second readings. Thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and continue with our business meeting. We'll ask that first readings are resolutions are read by the clerk.
Rescinding and replacing Resolution 6145, approving a petition for the creation of the Springfield Regional Energy Special Improvement District and for special assessments for special energy improvement projects and a Springfield Regional Energy Special Improvement District Program Plan, and Resolution 6146, approving the necessity of acquiring, constructing, and improving certain public improvements in the city. Approving a petition for special assessments for special energy improvement projects and a Springfield Regional Energy Special Improvement District supplemental supplement to plan for 2018 and 2020 East Main Street, Springfield, Ohio, project and declaring the necessity of acquiring, constructing, and improving certain public improvements in the city. Vacating the first alley northeast of Johnny Lytle Avenue from Montgomery Avenue, also known as Rebert Pike, west to the intersecting north-south alley. Determining to proceed with the acquisition, construction, and improvement of certain public improvements at 404 East McCrite Avenue in the city of Springfield, Ohio, in cooperation with the Springfield Regional Energy Special Improvement District. Levying special assessments for the purpose of acquiring, constructing, and improving certain public improvements at 404 East McCrite Avenue in the city of Springfield in cooperation with the Springfield Regional Energy Special Improvement District. Determining to proceed with the acquisition, construction, and improvement of certain public improvements at 2018 and 2020 East Main Street in the city of Springfield, Ohio, in cooperation with the Springfield Regional Energy Special Improvement District. Levying the special assessments for the purpose of acquiring, constructing, and improving certain public improvements at 2018 and 2020 East Main Street in the city of Springfield in cooperation with the Springfield Regional Energy Special Improvement District. Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Tony Smith, doing business as Tony Smith Wrecking and Trucking for the demolition of up to 37 specific parcels for an amount not to exceed $351,700. Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Lorenzo Anderson, doing business as All Things Truck Hauling and Dumpsters LLC for nuisance abatement services as needed by the city for a period of 1 year, with an option to renew for one additional 1-year period for an amount not to exceed $50,000. Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Gary Gilbert Jr., doing business as Gilbert's Lawn Service, for nuisance abatement services as needed by the city for a period of 1 year, with an option to renew for one additional 1-year period for an amount not to exceed $50,000. Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with OMAC Hauling Incorporated for nuisance abatement services as needed by the city for a period of 1 year, with an option to renew for one additional 1-year period for an amount not to exceed $50,000. Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Samuel E. Whitaker Sr., doing business as Whitaker Hauling, for nuisance abatement services as needed by the city for a period of 1 year, with an option to renew for one additional 1-year period for an amount not to exceed $50,000. Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Alexander Chemical Corporation for the purchase of liquid chlorine for use by the city's water treatment plant for an amount not to exceed $114,000. Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Rumpke of Ohio Incorporated for the city's 2024 collection of bagged leaves program for an amount not to exceed $77,873.
Is there any comments from commissioners on first readings? Dr. Estrop?
I was just going to ask Mr. Heck if he would comment on some of the items. I know every year, for instance, we get a question about, is it $50,000 we're spending with each of those contractors? And, oh, by the way, when is the bag leave program? So I was just wondering if you could comment on.
Yes, certainly I can, Commission. So we do have 4 items there that are awarding contracts to various vendors. These are junk and trash. vendors. So any type of nuisance abatement, associated with the demolition or junk and trash left on a parcel or property that we have to send a contractor out. This sets up these contractors to be able to do that. These are up to 50,000 on each of these contracts. So again, not every contractor will get up to the 50,000. It's based off of the efficiency and effectiveness of the contractor to be able to perform the work and get the jobs. I will say right now we're tracking this year, in this contract year that we've had this last time, we're at about 172,000. So we've spent a lot in junk and trash clean out. We talked to, Solid Waste District was here today. We need to continue to work to develop better thoughts, solutions to the challenge of trash throughout our community.
Can I ask a
Yeah.
follow-up question? If we know who owns that property, and we told them clean it up, and they don't do it, we have to clean it up. Do we send them the bill and expect them to pay for it?
Yes, we do seek to try to recover those funds. That can be a challenge, of course, sometimes. I will say having the vacant property registry, the rental property registry, and other programs like that help in identifying who to send that to hopefully get to recoup those dollars so that we can continue investing them in our community.
Well, I'm pleased to hear that, because that was clearly one of the reasons that we put the vacant property registry in place, was so we could identify who should be responsible for maintaining those properties.
Yes. You asked specifically about our bag leaf collection. So that program is set, assuming approval of this contract for this year. I'll just say, so 2023's program was $74,520. This bid came in. We only received one bid from Rumpke of Ohio at $77,873. Just so everybody knows, we've been with Rumpke on this program since 2019, and the dates are set for Saturday, November 23rd and Saturday, December 14th. And we'll have more information that comes out on our website and our social media channels that talks about making sure that you have your bag leaves out on the curb the night before and so forth, but November 23rd and December 14th. And then we had several items related to ESID or PACE. I'm going to ask if Tom Franzen can just speak broadly to those in the projects themselves.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Tom Franzen, Assistant City Manager, Director of Economic Development. There's multiple items on the legislative agenda related to PACE and ESID. You might recall we've held a work session about a year ago with Bobby Bruno, and I think a couple years before that, the law director and I also informed the commission of that program. But just to remind you, PACE is Property Assessed Clean Energy Financing, and so it's an economic development tool that assists private property owners in improving their property through energy improvement type projects. It's a special assessment that's assessed to their property tax, so it doesn't take from the existing property tax. The property owner actually comes to the city and asks for the special assessment to be placed on their property. And then that's assessed over a period of years to help pay back the financing for those special improvements. But just to give you an idea of some of the funding or some of the improvements that are eligible include updating existing homes, multifamily residential buildings, office buildings, manufacturing, warehouses with energy efficiency technologies for existing facilities. That could be weather sealing, insulation, high efficiency roofing, lighting, boilers, cooling systems, et cetera, as well as renewable energy technologies like solar voltaic, solar thermal, geothermal, et cetera. So those types of improvements that we like to see that the Ohio Revised Code has identified as public improvements because of the reduction of energy use. So those are the types of projects. There are two. You'll recall we did a PACE agreement for Wren property. There was no assessment that moved forward with that. That project has stalled and is now back moving towards redevelopment. But since that didn't move forward, there's language in there that's going to rescind the language related to Wren. And in its place will be two new projects that are moving forward. That's all the legislation that you're going to hear tonight. Those two projects, one is for Casanos. Mr. Casano is here as well to answer any questions you might have. But that's about a $1.2 million project there on East Main. That's wrapped up, so this would allow him to move forward with his permanent financing for that. And then the Springfield Manor, the IOOF home on McCrite, and that's about a $5.5 million project for property improvements there. And I think Danny Karam is here too. There he is. I want to thank both gentlemen for hanging in there tonight. I don't think they knew what they were getting into when they were told that we'd like them to be here to speak to their projects. But so thank you very much for them being here. Yes, ma'am.
Did you say something about a Mr. Casanos here?
He is.
Sir, are you related to Vic? Well, look at God.
So yeah, me and my brother are we own and operate third generation. So
Nice.
we've been in Springfield for, my grandfather came in here in the early 70s. And, one part of the problem of having a successful business after 71 years of being in business, you got a lot of stores that are old and tired, 50 something years old, whatever. So we were so happy to be able to move out of the old building and build this nice new fresh building. And that's our new prototype building everything else is going to be built off of that.
They look really nice. I'm disappointed that I don't smell Casanos right now, but it's okay. It's probably a conflict for you to have it here, but
I was wondering if our next meeting might be supplied with big cheese.
We might be able to work that
Right,
somehow.
with black
See how
and
late
green
they go.
olives, no meat. Okay.
We could have a pajama pizza
Bridget
party.
said
These
there's an
go so
obvious
late.
conflict, but I will continue to order my big cheese with no meat.
thank you. Dr. Estrop had follow-up?
Oh, yes, thank you for coming tonight and being very patient. I do have one question, and Tom, I suspect you can answer it, perhaps. What's the payoff for the business owner? How does participating in these programs help the local business owner?
Certainly, either gentleman can actually speak to their actual project, but in theory, the PACE program allows that financing for these improvements to be stretched over a longer period of time. So you get a longer term and potentially a lower interest rate as well for that financing. And so it allows them to stretch that really up to 30 years. In this case, both projects go 25 years for their
So you just
loans.
stretch that debt out over a longer period of time and help keep your monthly debt charges under control.
Yeah, being in the restaurant business is very expensive, the infrastructure and everything. So, I got this one, so you got like 33 we got to do. So constantly turning. So anytime I can get financing over a longer period of time, it makes my return on investment a lot better and allows
Very
me
good.
to do more.
Thank you for working with us, and your store looks great.
Well, thank you. Springfield, like I said, has been fantastic for us. So we love it here. We appreciate it.
We appreciate you, sir, and your family for years of wonderful service to myself and my family.
And I'm hungry. Okay, anything else? Thank you. We'll go on to second readings. If you'd like to go up to the mics, any comments from the audience on first readings only?
Mike Lowe. First of all, 2028-24, I would like to have a list of those 37 Pacific parcels. And the Springfield Manor at 404 East McCrite, is that the only facility that's going to be getting these assessments, or are they going to be adding on to that facility, such as a hospital?
Yeah, we can have the developer, if they want to speak to that, of what that project entails. As far as the properties, that list is available on our website as a part of the agenda, but we can certainly email that to you. If you give us a good email address, we'll send you that list.
Because there's several properties that adjacent to that are up for sale.
Okay, gotcha.
Thank you. Okay.
We'll have
Hello, Danny Karam, and I wanted to say thank you to Mr. Heck and your staff, as well as the commissioners for taking this up. As it relates to the property, we're not going to be doing any additions. This is just to upgrade the heating and cooling, the windows, which most of them have already been done, the roof, hot water system, and that's pretty much it. A more economical format property.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we'll go on to second readings.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into an airport vegetation management agreement 2024 to 2028 with Brian Harbage to manage vegetation growth on 55.08 acres at the Springfield Beckley Municipal Airport and confirming and approving services provided by Brian Harbage from June 1, 2024 to the passage of this ordinance.
I'll move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from commissioners? Dr. Estrop?
Managing vegetation growth, I think also means that this is the farmer who raises corn and soybeans on airport property. Am I correct?
Hay specifically, I was
You were on
told.
the right track. This is for hay specifically.
Oh,
So
it's hay. Yeah, okay, good enough. I wondered what managed vegetation growth amounted to, so.
I mean,
Hey.
ultimately, it's, we phrase it that way. One, the FAA allows us to use the property for that, but basically, this offsets our cost that we would be mowing otherwise. So we've
Sure.
really been proactive. The airport manager, Seth Timmerman, and his crew of identifying areas around the airfield that could be farmed as opposed to mowed. And so that one saves money for the city and operation of the airport.
Great idea. Thank you.
Comments from the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Sorry. Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mrs. Brown,
Yes.
Mrs. Houston,
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett,
Yes.
Mr. Rue.
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into Amendment 4 to the agreement with App Architecture for the design of South Charleston Fire Station to increase the agreement for an amount not to exceed $3,840 for a total amount not to exceed $632,989.94.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there comments from commissioners? From the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Houston,
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mrs. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Rue.
Yes.
Amending ordinance number 91-90 passed March 12, 1991, and commonly known as the codified ordinances of the city of Springfield, Ohio, by repealing and replacing section 918.04 entitled Stormwater Utility Service Charges, ESU rates.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are comments from commissioners? Dr. Estrop?
I was wondering if Katie might explain the material that's being projected on the screen.
Certainly, Commissioner, and I will repeat a lot of the items that I repeated at the last meeting, so I apologize for the repetition. So the item up here on the screen just provides additional information related to these increases. This item and the next item are recommended increases to water, sewer, and stormwater rates over the next 2 years. These increases are necessary to cover rising operational costs, maintain and upgrade infrastructure, and ensure reliable delivery of services while balancing inflation and increasing environmental regulations. I'd also like to note that the water, sewer, and stormwater utilities combined have committed more than $100 million over the last 5 years to improving infrastructure in our community. A lot of times we talk about the neighborhood street program, and that's the paving that you see on the street, right? But we are being strategic in evaluating those streets that are paved and also replacing the water and sewer lines underneath the pavement, which doubles the cost. That's the same side as the neighborhood street paving program over on the water sewer side, so that we're not paving a road and then having to dig it right back up to replace water and sewer infrastructure. So as you see here, the average residential bill with the recommended rate increases of 12% in water, 1% in sewer, and 25 cents for stormwater is 4.23% in 2025, or $2.31 per month to the average bill, and 4.42% in 2026, or $2.52 for the average bill. One of the things to note that I noted last time as well is that since 2021, the cost to treat our water has increased over $1 million annually. That's not $1 million from 2021 to 2024. That's $1 million more in 2022, $1 million more in 2023, and so on. And just an example of that is highlighted up here for the increase in the cost of lime, which is essential in treating our water. That contract has increased from $798,000 in 2021 to $1.6 million in 2024. So again, we don't take these increases lightly. We realize that these impact our residents. However, they are necessary to sustain the quality and safety of the services that we deliver.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Comments from the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Tackett,
Yes.
Mrs. Houston,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mrs. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Rue.
Yes.
Amending ordinance number 91-90 passed March 12, 1991, and commonly known as the codified ordinances of the city of Springfield, Ohio, by repealing and replacing section 911.02 entitled Service Charge Rates and section 917.02 entitled Service Charge Rates.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there other comments from commissioners from the audience? Go ahead, Mr. Lowe.
Okay, in Thursday's paper, you're talking about an increase on the water bills. Well, Friday I called and asked for public request for the rates for the last 8 years. I believe this year and last year, we did not have a rate increase, but the previous years we had rate increases. Could that be because the city's extending their boundaries out east to the fairgrounds and out to the new houses at Melody Park and up Troy Road to Lawrenceville? Would that be part of the increases? And I would like to know, what is the balance of the water department? I realize it changes every day, but I still would like to know the balance. And in the years past, you took money out of the water account and bought vehicles for other departments. Are you still taking money out of the water department, or is it just the general fund?
So thank you, Mike, for the comments. Ms. Evson, do you have any answers? And if she can't answer everything, you'll get answers to the rest of it. Go ahead.
I do. I believe I can answer most of those questions, Mr. Lowe. So we have legislated utility rate increases since as far back as 2017. I would have to go back and look at previous history prior to then. But each year since 2017, we have legislated rate increases for water and sewer. Stormwater increases began in 2022. As far as cash balances, as of August 26th, the water fund has a cash balance of $10.8 million. The sewer fund has a cash balance of $17.7 million. And the stormwater has a balance of $1.1 million. We take those cash balances into consideration when we are recommending rate increases, because we have to have enough cash on hand at the end of the year and that we are presenting to our auditors and financial institutions when we are seeking debt, like through OWDA, for a lot of the infrastructure needs that we are taking on. Those cash balances show how financially stable the city is in being able to pay off our debts. So what we are looking at is that debt coverage ratio from a financial perspective on those cash balances. And I will tell you that we are close to 100% on that. We can't fall below 100%, or we have significant implications for the city. Our municipal advisors, bond counsel, financial institutions would start to question the financial stability of the city when we are looking to secure loans for those water and sewer infrastructure projects. In addition, if you look at a community like Middletown, Ohio, they are also a CSO community, combined sewer overflow community, and their cash balances are somewhat similar to the city of Springfield's. They have $14 million in their water fund and $25 million in their sewer fund.
Has the state gave any money for the infrastructure or putting those new lines in out east and out west?
So a lot of that is where we are securing some of the forgiven loans or low interest rate loans through the state, through OWDA. And then, what was the vehicles being purchased out of the water fund. So the water fund is an enterprise fund. The general fund is a governmental fund. So with the general fund, the governmental fund, we can use those dollars for any proper public purpose. For the water fund, that is an enterprise fund. We have customers that are paying for water. So the water fund dollars can only be used for water-related purchases. They cannot be used for sewer. They cannot be used for police. They cannot be used for fire. So we cannot use like water fund dollars, for example, to buy a truck for code enforcement
What about
or
service
to pave a
department?
street. It depends on what department that employee works in. If they are a water distribution employee or a water treatment plant employee, then their vehicle would be purchased out of the water fund.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The comments from the audience. Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Confirming and approving a grant agreement with the Ohio Office of Budget and Management to accept funding in an amount up to $750,000 to be used for an A.B. Graham Memorial, authorizing the city manager, finance director, and law director to do all things necessary to implement said grant agreement and comply with all relevant local, state, and federal legal requirements.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Could somebody speak to this again?
Yes, so specifically, when the I-70 widening project was in design and development, it included improving the interchange at 70 and 72 for the landscaping because there was a lot of grading as a part of the reconstruction there. If you recall, we had a lot of trees and, it was a beautiful area, and then that all got ripped out as part of that widening project. And so when that project, the 70 widening project started, ODOT still paid for landscaping as part of the projects. Well, that project originally was slated wasn't going to happen until 2038, and then luckily we got it moved up. But by the time it started, ODOT was no longer paying for landscape improvements, and so we've been able to work with the state to actually get this 750 through the Strategic Capital Investment Fund to help with the improvement of that interchange area in terms of landscaping and so forth. And the original design, as you saw or see with what's out there for the widening, it pays homage to 4-H, and that Clark County is the birthplace of 4-H. And so this would be a memorial which would have plaques that would talk about the history of A.B. Graham and the development of 4-H in our community as a part of this landscaped interchange area.
Thank you. The comments from the audience. Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Confirming and approving the lease termination agreement and mutual release by and between Reed Park Limited and the City of Springfield, Ohio to terminate the lease, operation, and maintenance of Reed Park Golf
So
Course.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there comments from commissioners? From the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Endorsing and supporting the Clark County Waste Management District's amended draft solid waste management plan for the 2025-2039 planning period.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Other comments from commissioners? From the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Mr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Confirming the purchases and obtaining of services for the city and providing for payments therefore and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Are there comments from commissioners? From the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
providing for supplemental appropriations within various funds and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there comments from commissioners from the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to apply for, accept, and enter into let me start over. Authorizing the city manager to apply for, accept, and enter into water supply revolving loan account loan agreement with the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency and Ohio Water Development Authority to finance a portion of the city's 2024 Selma Road Water Service Replacement Project, authorizing the city manager, finance director, and law director to do all things necessary to implement said loan application and agreement and to comply with all relevant local, state, and federal legal requirements and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there comments from commissioners? Dr. Estrop.
I was wondering if someone on staff could give us a little more information.
Yeah, so commissioners, looking at the overall Selma Road Water Service Replacement Project, there's two items here, the loan side and then the actual award of contract. The project is to eliminate lead service lines. So as we talk just about our utility rate increases, another thing is the lead rule changes that have come, and we're working to try to address those in our infrastructure. But this will eliminate lead service lines on Selma Road from Spring Street to the Corp line. And it is part of a larger project as we plan ahead. Again, we try to plan accordingly, so when we pave a street, these things are fixed beforehand so that when we come in and pave, we're not then tearing it back up to try to address these issues. Katie can speak to the actual financing of that on the OWDA side.
Yes, Commissioner. So this loan with the Ohio EPA and the Ohio Water Development Authority, or OWDA, is for $1,011,100. Of that amount, it's estimated that $318,915 would be eligible for principal forgiveness. And then the remaining $692,000 would be at 0% interest. And just of note, the reason that this item is an emergency is the loan application is due to the Ohio EPA by September 1st for an October award at their October 31st meeting. Otherwise, this would not make it until December 12th with the Ohio EPA.
Thank you very much. And sounds like a great project and a good way to finance it. So, thank you.
Comments from the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Mid-Ohio Pipeline Company Incorporated for the Selma Road Water Service Replacement Project for an amount not to exceed $906,900.23 and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there comments from commissioners from the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Providing for the issuance of bonds to pay the property owner's portion in anticipation of the collection of special assessments heretofore levied of the cost of constructing sidewalks, curbs, and gutters comprised in the 2023 Sidewalk, Curb, and Gutter Program at various locations throughout the city and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Are there comments from commissioners from the audience? Ms. Barron, please go to the mic.
Real quick, lost my place here.
198.
Special assessments levied of the cost of construction sidewalks, curbs, gutters. That's for homeowners that don't pay and the improvements are done? Or is that going to be a fund set to the side for the people that can't afford to have curbs and gutters done?
We assess those back to residents through property taxes if they do not elect to pay that up front. It's assessed over 10 years through the Clark County Auditor, again, on their property taxes annually.
Right. And
for our sidewalk, curb, and gutter program that we conduct
right.
annually.
And if it's not paid in the 10 years, these funds will be used to offset that, or I guess I'm confused.
Well, this is the issuance of a bond. We had issued notes whenever we first undertook that program. And so now the dollars that are not coming back into the city, we are issuing a bond at a lower interest rate than that note. But again, we assess to residents up to 10 years. Previously, that was 5, and we've capped that amount based on the year of the program, where previously we had not capped that due to the increasing cost of materials. And then that is assessed through the county auditor.
And so essentially, Baron, to your, I think what your question is, we have to pay the contractor when the project is done.
Sure.
But we allow property owners to assess it across 10 years on their property taxes. So we have to cover that upfront cost until we're paid back through the assessments over that 10-year period. So that is what this is setting up.
I thought it was a fund. You know, I'm looking for curbs and gutters, guys. The fund that was going to be set up to when it wasn't in the budget that year to do curbs and gutters in the cases such as mine where it's causing property damage where they could go in and do it. Nothing to do with that at all.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Or call the roll.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to apply for a fiscal year 2024 Safe Streets and Roads for All SS4A grant in an amount up to $1,576,560 through the United States Department of Transportation, authorizing a local matching expenditure in an amount not to exceed $394,140, authorizing the city manager, director of finance, and law director to perform all acts and execute all documents considered necessary to fulfill the city's obligations under said grant application, and to comply with all relevant local, state, and federal legal requirements and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Are there comments from commissioners? Dr. Esprout.
Yes, I was wondering if staff might tell us a little about this grant and exactly what the funds will be used for.
Yes, I will actually have Julie Springer, who's the project manager on this grant, speak to that.
Evening, Mayor Rue, commissioners. So this fund, or this grant, is a program through the U.S. Department of Transportation that allows us to go through a safety action plan. And then in return, we would also do a demonstration project that would seek additional data that would allow us to report back on the safety measures that come out of the action plan. So as part of that grant, we are looking at 2 different demonstrative programs. The first one would be the Opticom program, which would actually upgrade the city's preemption system at all of the 130 signalized intersections. We have an existing system that does exist, but it was first installed in the mid-'80s. So as part of that, we would look at upgrading that to a more innovative technology that would allow our emergency responders, being police and fire, to actually get the right of way for a traffic signal and get to the emergency in a much safer and quicker time frame. Now, as part of that, we also have the ability to expand that system because of this new technology, where we could also bring in our transit system, our snow plows, and other communities that also it's critical for them to get through the intersection safely. The second portion of that would be the TrainFo system, which would install sensors at 10 different locations throughout the city. This would actually give the dispatch a alert that this train would be occupying at a certain time frame. It also allows them to dispatch a different route. And again, in order to allow the first responders a much quicker response time to the scene. This also would consist of installing message signs, dynamic message signs, that could also alert drivers to take a different route, which would alleviate congestion through our intersections. At many of them, they are very close to signalized intersections, so that would also allow traffic to just take a different route. Again, a much safer intersection, which is truly what we are looking for with this grant.
Great, thank you very much. Sounds great.
Thank you.
Comments from the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into an airport infrastructure grant agreement with the Federal Aviation Administration to accept funding in an amount up to $165,725 for the design portion of the reconstruction of taxiway C at the Springfield Beckley Municipal Airport, authorizing a local matching expenditure in an amount not to exceed $9,207, authorizing the city manager, law director, airport manager, and the director of finance to do all things necessary for the execution of the agreement and to comply with all relevant local, state, and federal legal requirements and declaring an emergency therein.
So
moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Other comments from commissioners? Bridget?
Yeah, I just want to say again, thanks to Tom for everything you've done at the airport, especially I feel like we get so many grants with minimal local matching, and just the progress that's been made out there definitely needs to keep being recognized.
Comments from the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs.
Oh,
Houston?
did you have a comment, Miss?
No,
Commissioner?
I was
Go
just
ahead.
going to say Tom made the front page of the paper with this fly this week. I was just going to credit, which was very cool seeing that. Do you want to speak to that? So tell people what was on the front of that paper?
Very quickly, we've been here, I hate to keep dragging everybody out. But yeah, we had the industry forum, the National Advanced Air Mobility Industry Forum here in Springfield last week. Thanks for mentioning that. You, I think, have coins, I think, that you were given tonight if you weren't able to make the event. But that drew in a couple hundred people from around the country, really from around the world. We had some international visitors as well, coming in to learn what we're doing around advanced air mobility, flying cars, drones, that new technology that we've kind of built a home for out at our airport with the National Advanced Air Mobility Center of Excellence. I'll keep saying that acronym or that name, but AAM is the acronym. Thank you very much. The grants too, just Seth Timmerman, our airport manager, our consultant, Wolpert Contract and our consulting really helps us with that FAA relationship and to get those grants. So thanks to them for the work they do out there.
Maybe
Thank you.
Casanos could invest and
So,
get a.
We just can't tie
drone.
the two together, that's all. So, they might be delivering pizza with those drones.
Thank you, Tom.
Comments from the audience? Go ahead and clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into an airport infrastructure grant agreement with the Federal Aviation Administration to accept funding in an amount up to $14733 for the acquisition of real property at the approach end of runway 6 within the airport runway safety area at the Springfield Beckley Municipal Airport, authorizing a local matching expenditure in an amount not to exceed $7,821, authorizing the city manager, law director, airport manager, and director of finance to do all things necessary for the execution of the agreement and to comply with all relevant local, state, and federal legal requirements and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Other comments from commissioners? Dr. Estrop?
As I recall, this is an FAA required purchase. We are required to purchase this property.
That's correct. Yeah, this is, the properties were in the runway protection zone. So that's the area at the end of the runways. It's kind of a cone shape off the end of the runways that for safety, obvious safety reasons, they'd like that to be cleared and have nothing in that area.
Thank you.
Comments from the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract for grant administration services with the National Council for Community Development Incorporated doing business as Grow America for a period of 2 years with the option to renew for 3 additional 1-year terms for an amount not to exceed $132,600 for the initial 2-year term and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
I moved and seconded. Other comments from commissioners? From Dr. Estrop?
I just was wondering if staff might give us a little more information about it.
Yeah, Commission. So this item is working with Grow America, specifically on our entitlement programming / funding that we receive, so CDBG dollars, ESG, and so forth, and consider it a force multiplier to work with them on our staff, with our staff in terms of training and just making sure as HUD is constantly changing requirements and so forth, that we stay in compliance and working with our action plan and our consolidated plan and so forth. So this will just, again, help us and our staff be able to be the most efficient and effective in delivering these federal funds into our community.
Thank you very much.
Comments from the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
The following item was added to the agenda, consenting to the appointment of Pamela Tolliver to the Human Relations Board and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Appreciate Pam being willing to serve on the Human Relations Board. Your comments from the audience? Clerk, call the roll.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes. Is there any announcements from commissioners?
Yes. A little bit of a list because we have so many exciting things happening in downtown. So next week is First Friday, and the theme is Dog Days of Summer. So please feel free to bring your pets down here. It's also exciting because we're going to welcome a new business finally. Viva La Fiesta is going to be opening that week. So that's also very exciting for us folks down here. And then Farmers Market is in its last month in September. So if you have not been down here, like the Saturday mornings down here are the best. Tour the Heritage Center. Go in, grab a waffle and Cohatch and enjoy downtown during those farmers market times this coming month. I also feel it would be remiss that I don't thank the city staff for being a part of that terrible day at the executive end. I do appreciate you. And I also appreciate the city schools who stepped up, Project Woman, Sheltered Inc., and OIC that put folks into those shelters. And then the last thing, just to end on a good note, Market Fest was excellent. So thank you to our CVB, Chris Schutte, who works very hard for the city to bring events down here. The Market Fest was a great time as well last week. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other announcements from commissioners? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Clerk, call the roll.
You guys are too fast for me.
It's 9:30.
It's 9:30.
I'm tired.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mrs. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes. Mr. Rue?
Yes.